All right, Long Range Planning Committee, an update from Mr. Hinshaw.
As in the past, each meeting, we're just continuing to give you an update on the committee's work. Our next meeting with the Long Range Facility Committee will occur on the 27th at Mark Twain. Tour will be at 5 o'clock if any of you all want to join us. And going through that building, and then the meeting will occur after that. I appreciate the work of that committee. I'm not going to, again, not read all these to you again, but we've presented some major discussion topics as the committee has rolled through each one of those tours and reviewing input. We've addressed some of these, so I'm going to move on to the middle school, which was our most recent meeting. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to stop and discuss these, but these obviously aren't recommendations, but just trying to give the board and also the public the opportunity to see some of the areas of facilities that we are talking about. I'll just remind you that program needs, as programs change, grow, demands change on types of facilities, and to be one of the themes that we've noticed is most of our buildings are in we're very in good shape as far as general classroom space in most buildings if we don't see huge changes in population. Okay, obviously if our student population numbers jump, but based on projections and based on the last 10-year trend, we're in pretty good shape right now for general classroom space in most of the buildings. Obviously, we haven't been through the last three, but what we're seeing as far as input, we feel pretty good about that. But there are some definite areas, the specific programs that need space in different locations. At the middle school was in really good shape as far as overall facility. It is a 40-year-old facility, again, and I put that up there because time flies for people who have lived in this community a long time. It maybe seems like a new building to them. But again, this mentions that we do have room for growth under normal student population right now. We do need to continue, as the board supported some major purchases on the playground this last year, but we need to continue to address some issues there, expand that a little more, maybe more asphalt area for play areas, those kind of things, address some ADA considerations, getting to and from the new area, and opportunities for students to participate in a variety of activities out there. Also discuss some, because we're taking in all kinds of input, and so a couple of these things address site issues that we've identified. So better access from the west. If pedestrians are coming down Soest from the west and they want to get to the building and from the building to head west, there's some issues about where we don't have sidewalks, where we do have sidewalks, and where we do have sidewalks causes some students to have to cross in front of traffic, in front of buses that are coming out of the driveways. And so we feel like we can address that with some, not major costs, but still long-range planning for sites, for this site. And then also some discussion about some improvements to the current gymnasium, addressing some seating, type of floor, those kinds of things that might allow for some competitive events to be held in that facility. The other thing the committee did this last meeting was review some schematics, and we didn't, I just wanted to touch on the process. We'll begin to start asking our architect to supply some schematics that addresses the discussions that we've had about some needs. And then as he puts those together, then we'll get some budget estimates on how much per square foot. Obviously, those are very general. You're not going to see detailed plans. The way I described it to the committee is, for example, if we're talking about an auditorium at the high school, it may be an auditorium that they've designed for another school district that kind of addresses the same type of issues that we've talked about for this school district, and they'll move that box around on the plan and just give us some ideas of where it might fit. But obviously, this committee's job is not to get into detailed design of a facility. That would be in the future when the board and the community say, yes, we want to look at this and we want this to happen. So none of these are, we might have 4 or 5 schemes for the high school, for example, and 4 or 5 for Mark Twain and whatever, but none of them are the final product 8 years from now. But it gives the board and the administrative team some budget numbers to understand how big a project it would be, and then you can start discussing how to address those goals, if those become goals. Our remaining input deadlines, Truman is, the deadline is the 20th, and then Wyman will take input up to the 7th. There is a link on this slide, and for those at home, you could type that in and go to the link if you wanted to give us some input. We've had 211 people provide input on the building so far, and we have about 12 more weeks to work through the review and trying to put together a package to bring to the school board. So, if you have any questions, or the members that are serving on the committee, any comments?
I think the process is working very smoothly, thanks to your leadership, Kelly. And, a lot of good input, and it's been organized before the committee takes a look at it, so things are together and highlighted for what is considered to be capital improvements. So that's our key area to look at. So we do have some needs. Some of them were surprises, and we will work through those, prioritize.
And again, I would say all the input's been worthwhile and valuable, and a lot of it may not be long range, but it's being put in the hands of the folks for buildings and grounds, and just maintenance issues. Just something that should be a work order for next week or 2 weeks from now. So those type of items are being distributed to the principals and the maintenance director, and they all have that information. And so even if some of the things, obviously all those things aren't going to end up on a long-range plan, they shouldn't be, but they're going to be addressed or at least evaluated on merit and address those appropriately through other means of the budget. So appreciate that.
You made the comment at the middle school I thought was interesting that, because of the transition year, there could be some issues that are popping up in the survey that are perhaps more related to either a school schedule or what classes are being offered, and this being the transition year, some of that's probably going to change next year. So
right.
Some of those things will probably take care of themselves in that sense too.
Right, and some of those, and when you're talking about, when we identify something, if I'm looking at the input, for example, or Craig or Aaron, and say, well, that's really more of a master schedule issue, then those kind of discussions also, they don't go to the maintenance department, they go to the administrative team, and you start discussing those planning for next year as well. So I think it's been a good process and valuable information for different reasons. So any other questions? Hopefully we're giving you a good sense of what's to come, maybe, in a plan, and so you don't have any surprises either in May. All right, thank you.
All right, very good.